This video is going to be really good for you. If you're looking to get involved in assisted living, my friend Vern Harris, he's pretty much the go-to guy here in Denver. And when it comes to anything assisted living, so we had him speak at the lunch club, and he brought actually a lot of value, a lot of insight, some things that you'll probably want to learn before you get involved. So without further ado, here's Vern Harris.
Hopefully this won't be too loud there. So I'm Vern Harris. See if I can get my clicker to work. Another one I forgot. Try this again. Maybe my battery now. Or my computer froze up. Yeah, that's the case. Not as prepared as I thought I was. All right, we'll try that again. All right. Wow. Okay. So I've been an entrepreneur since '87. I've bought, sold, or created, it's actually 19 companies. Forgot one I did a couple years ago. Started investing in 2013. Bought, sold, or acquired over $27 million worth of property and now broker. And I've got 19 rental properties, and one of them is assisted living. I'm a fifth generation Colorado native, been married for 29 years. I got 4 boys, 8 grandchildren, and 2 aging parents. Speaking of aging, this is our aging population. Every day, 10,000 people turn 65 years old. And every day, 4,000 people turn 85. This is just the US. So 7% of those people over 65 need some kind of assistance. And 22% of those over 85 need some kind of assistance. So let's look at the math. If every day 10,000 turn 65 and 7% need assistance, that's 700 a day, or 255,000 a year. And if 4,000 people turn 85 and 22% of those people need assistance, that's 880 a day, or 321,000 a year. So that's 576,000 people a year coming on that need assistance. By 2040, the global population of those aged 65 and older is going to be 1.3 billion. That's double what it is right now. So there's a market opportunity here. 85-year-olds are one of the fastest growing segments of population. In 2012, there was 5.9 million people 85 plus in the United States. That's supposed to increase to 19.4 by 2050. And 14% of people over 65 have 2 to 3 chronic conditions that erode their ability to live independently. So what is an ALR? Well, it's an assisted living residence. It's a residential facility for 3 or more adults. And let's see, it provides room and board, protective oversight, personal services, social care, needed because of the impaired capacity to live independently. And this is on a 24-hour basis. So this is not a nursing home. Housing modifications for such a thing. You need to have a sprinkler system. Sometimes the garages are converted to extra bedrooms. They need showers, not baths. Grab bars in the bathrooms, sometimes down the hallway. Have to have smooth floors because they use walkers. Don't want them tripping. Ramps, a lot of times out front. Wide doorways because sometimes they have wheelchairs. And who lives there? Well, your typical resident is 87 years old. And 74% of them are female, because they live longer. 72% need some kind of assistance bathing. And 52% need assistance just getting dressed. 36% need assistance using the bathroom. 25% need assistance just transferring from a chair to bed or something like that. So why would you do a residential home or put mom in a residential home instead of the big box? Well, everybody knows about the big box. No, they're not really that bad. They're actually pretty nice. Some of them are like resorts. But the big box kind of feels like an institution. Mom may not like that. You guys recognize those guys? And they have a low caregiver to residential ratio. A lot of times in these big boxes, they're going to count the landscapers, the people in the kitchen. They have to meet a certain caregiver to resident ratio, and they count everybody in the building. And it's typically a la carte. So in a big box, you go in, you spend $5,000 a month, and then if you want some special diet, it's a little bit more. If they need help with toileting, it's more money. If they need something else, it's more money. It's a la carte. So what they tell you is $5,000 could end up being $7,000. So why would you put mom into a residential home? Well, it looks like a home, and it feels like a home, and it's not an institution. The caregiver ratio is a little bit better. Typically, you're at 10 to 1 on the high side, and it's all inclusive, so there's no add-ons. Pay one price. So the market cost of care in 2016 is $3,600 in the United States, and by 2026 it's going to be up to $4,800. That's per month. Colorado right now the average is $4,063 per month. That's the average, and in 2026 that's $5,400. We look across the nation, you can see Colorado's on the higher side, but getting to New England, it's quite a bit higher. A lot of it relates to the cost of living. So this is a business. It's not just real estate. Let's take a little bit of a look at the business. The income on these, typical scenario is we've got 10 beds. That's a good model. Making $4,000 a month per bed. That's $40,000 a month of gross income. Your expenses, you got $18,000 to $25,000 total expenses. So your net on these is $15,000 to $22,000 a month before your debt service. Not bad. Let's look at the operations a little bit. You got your staffing, that's your biggest expense and the toughest one. First you got management, then you need an administrator. They're kind of in charge of the house. And then you have to have caregivers, enough for 24 hours a day caregiving. Then you have your operating expenses, which is food. Average per day is about $7 to $8 per resident. So that's not too bad. You have your utilities, insurance. Insurance is not that much. I think it runs maybe $1.25 a day per resident. And maintenance. If you have a brand new house, you have less maintenance. But older houses, you're going to have some. Licenses. To start out, I think it's around $7,000 in Colorado. And renewal every year is not too much. I typically see it less than $1,000. Best practices is to have 3 of these houses. That's at least 3 of them, and then it starts to work pretty well. You get the economies of scale that way. Because we have to have an administrator, one administrator can take care of several houses. Your management cost is reduced that way. So there's some investment opportunities here. First one you can do is the real estate. This is what we do at A Better Way Realty, is we just own the property. We have 7 of these, and we rent them out at 150 to 200% of what we would normally get out of that house. They're triple net leases, which means that the tenant takes care of the taxes, insurance, maintenance, everything. So we're getting that net money. And typically it's a 5-year lease with options to renew. And they like to renew because they've got a business going there. And the nice thing is these tenants are easy on the house. You don't have them changing the oil on their motorcycle in the living room. Yes?
If that 150 to 200%, like, so if a house would normally rent for $2,000 a month, you're getting $3,000 to $4,000, but that's a triple net number on top of it?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes. We've got some houses out there, 14, 16 beds, $10,000 a month. Triple net.
Nice.
You could do the operations where you just own the business. Maybe you're leasing the house. There is management companies available to run these for you. You're doing good for the community. And then NOI in these businesses typically 20 to 30%. I don't know if there's any entrepreneurs out here that run a business, but in a normal business, you're looking maybe 10% if you're doing well. So this 20 to 30 is a pretty high number. And you can do both, where you own the real estate and own the business. So how do you get started? Well, you can start a new operation. And to do that, you need to find the right property. That's usually a large ranch, 3,000 to start. No stairs, it's tricky after. Yes?
To find the ranch, do you have to have the proper zoning in place to do this, or do you have to have some?
Most of the cities allow group homes, but most of them, and it varies by city, only allow the group home 750 feet away from the next group home. So if there's a group home right next door, it probably won't work. But if they're halfway down the block, 750 feet is not that far away. So that's, I've seen some where they're across the street from each other, like in Castle Rock. I know of 2 that are right across the street from each other. But most of the cities in town, in the metro area, 750 foot rule. You want to have some common area space so that they can hang out and play bingo or whatever they're doing. And room to add on is ideal. We saw a house where the guy had bought an unusual house that was kind of offset on a big lot. So he built on the space that he had on the extra lot in addition to the house. And he's getting probably $6,000 a month for those rooms. Some people like living quarters for the caregiver. Either they put them in the basement or upstairs. It's not a practice that is always recommended because then you're kind of locked into that person. But I've seen that model quite a bit. Your labor, you need to have an administrator. And again, you can have multiple homes for one administrator. Typically, you're going to stretch them if you go over 4 or 5. You need caregivers. Maximum is 10 residents per caregiver. And you need management. And we do have outside management that's available. I know one management company that charges 5% of gross, so it's pretty reasonable. And you need heads and beds. That's the most important thing. There are referral companies out there that will basically charge a month's worth of rent to put somebody in. There's your typical marketing websites. Any business should be doing something like that. There's relationships with discharge personnel. So you go to a hospital, you get to know somebody in physical therapy, and you know somebody comes in and they need a place to go next, and you can use them to refer you clients. So let's recap. Start up a new operation. You find the right property, you get licensed, you get your staffing, find the residents. There's shortcuts, and that is you can purchase an existing operation. It's easier to get a loan if it's existing, correct? It already has residents, already has staffing. Financing, you can do SBA, HUD, and USDA even has some lending in the rural areas. You can use private equity funds. You can use private or hard money. I know a guy who bought his first assisted living using hard money. Kind of surprised us all, but it worked. Now he's got 6 or 7. You can do lease options. Lease option is something that if you're interested, I've got some flyers up here. This is what we do at Evaluate Realty. So we'll recap. You can start a new operation, get staffing, find the right property, get licensed, find residents, purchase an existing operation. I can help you with that. I'm a broker in this space. It's easier to get a loan. Already has residents, already has staffing, usually has a track record. And the financing, the SBA, HUD, USDA, there's lenders here that do this kind of stuff. Private money, there's some private money guys here. You probably touch this right out. And lease options. Why would you do this? Is it for the warm, fuzzy feeling? Is it because you recognize an opportunity? Is it because you got aging parents? This is mine. Question is, where are you going to be when your time comes? Everybody's going to get there at some point in time. Some of us are a little closer than others. But are you going to be writing the checks or accepting the checks? So I run a group. It's a meetup group called Denver ALR. You can find us. Our website is denveralr.org, Facebook, or Meetup. We meet the last Wednesday of every month. We try to make it educational. We try to help you understand what the space is all about. And the last slide is my shameless plug. I'm an investor-friendly broker. I do consultation on this. BPOs, we're doing some development in Tabernacle right now. I handle the business and real estate acquisitions of these assisted livings and the sales and accepting clients. And again, if you're interested in lease options, you can take a flyer. Any questions? Yes?
You mentioned the rents are much higher. If you had a cash flowing house, like in your situation, and you went to sell it, would you be able to sell that at a premium to what comps in the area are, or?
That's a good question.
Can you repeat the question?
So he asked if you had a cash flowing house already that was assisted living and you're looking to sell it, basically how would it comp out? Would it be comparable to the other houses out there, or would it be considered an income? I recently saw an appraisal for a house that was probably, I haven't run the comps on it, but I guess it's $650, maybe $700. It's in Highlands Ranch, and the appraisal came in for the real estate alone at $1.1 million from a bank. Yeah, that blew me away. It's like, really? So they are, in some circumstances, looking at these as income property. Now this had an operator that had a track record in it. So if you got a brand new operator, they may look at it differently. But I have seen it where they're looking at a cap rate. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about the licensing requirements? I mean, are you required to get licensed, or do you just the management company that has the license?
The house has to be licensed itself. So when you start this up, you file a letter of intent with the state. You need to have an administrator, so you have to have somebody on file. It doesn't have to be you. It can be whoever you hire for the administrator. The management company can provide that administrator. The license is about $7,000. You have to jump through some hoops. It takes 6-8 weeks, depending on how well you have your paperwork in order. Right now, there's a big backlog, and it just, what takes the time is them getting to it. Yes?
What happens if you buy a property and it gets denied?
It's best to do due diligence on the front side, but that's a good question because you really can't apply for that license until you have control of the property. So what I recommend to my clients is let's get a lease in place for that property before we do the purchase. Because with the lease in place, you can apply for the license. So if you can find a seller that's willing to work with you in that, then you can do it that way. Get your lease. But usually, in your due diligence, you're going to go to zoning, make sure that you can have it there. You're going to file your letter of intent. You're going to call them up and find out, hey, here's what I'm doing. Most of the people I've seen have got that due diligence out of the way. The only time we really have to do that lease is when we're doing an existing business and they're doing a change of ownership. Yes?
How do most of the tenants pay? Are they personally paying, or is there some government subsidy, and what happens when we become insolvent?
So there's two different ones. There's the private pay, which we see at this $4,000 a month average, and that usually comes from their asset base. Could be, they sold a house, they've got retirement, whatever it is. If they don't have any money, then they do qualify for Medicaid. And Medicaid pays a lot less. Today it's about almost $2,300 a month. As of October 1st, that goes up 25%, so it's going to be at 26 and change, almost 27 on a 31-day month. So that's a big boost in our world, because there's a lot of houses out there right now, Medicaid houses, that they're making a little bit, but their bottom line is going to go up significantly, because they're getting a 25% boost in income.
Have you had experience where tenants become insolvent, and that has to be
Yes, there is. So that's what they call a spin down. And what they do is they take their private pay money until they run out of money, and then they convert them over to Medicaid. So it's actually an attraction to them, because then they don't want to move when they get to the point where they're out of money. So if you're a house and you're offering a spin down, then you can attract a client that can come in. And here's what's interesting about this. I talked to an operator who was converting to Medicaid, and he was already getting $5,000 a month. And I said, why would you do that? He said, because with a spin down, we can attract them in. And I said, okay, let me think about this. Well, how long does their money typically last? He says, we usually have a 2-year minimum of spin down. And I said, well, how long does the average resident last? He said, about 18 months. So if the resident's there for 18 months, they offer that spin down, even if they outlive that, you're still going to be okay.
Yeah.
But that's a strategy to bring people in. I had a question up here.
Oh yeah. So basically, does that mean that Medicaid or subsidized assisted living really isn't? It's not very profitable, because you said that you have about 18 to 23K of expenses a month, and so if you had the 10-bed example, then you're pulling in right now it would be about 23K on the high end of your expenses. So you're really clearing that.
Right. And the Medicaid ones that we see today, unless they have
Unless maybe the way you
20, 30 beds,
yeah,
then they're having a real hard time.
So
usually those operators are people that got involved because they were helping mom, and so they brought them in her house, and then they started adding to it, but they're not making
yeah,
money.
you're not.
It's not for an
So
investor.
you want to be looking at the private.
Right. Well, I've seen a 3-pack where they had 10 people in each house, all were Medicaid, and they're making pretty good coin.
Okay.
So once you get up, again, it's that economies of scale. The second biggest expense you have beside your staff is your administrator. So if you have an administrator, they're going to run anywhere from 30 to 50 grand a year to administrate that house. So most of the Medicaids are their own administrator. But if you got 3 houses, you're spreading that 50 grand between those 3 houses. Now you've cut that down to a third. Your food buying may be a little bit more in bulk, so you get a little bit advantage that way. Your labor pool doesn't have to be as big, because you can take them from one house and move to another house. So the economies of scale.
Okay. All right.
Now, I will state that the Medicaid houses I've seen that are not making money today are going to be making money in about 2 months.
Okay. Yeah. Once the increase.
Right.
And there's also another follow-up question to that is, how long does it typically take you to qualify by Medicaid to get those payments? Because I've heard of stories of people where they're taking months, where they're basically losing money because they're not getting paychecks from Medicaid.
Medicaid's billing system has been difficult, and I have seen the same situation. They changed their billing system about a year and a half ago, and I saw guys that didn't get paid for 3 or 4 months. So I look at their P&L and it's like low, 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 boom, real high, because they're typically on a cash basis. It's like, how do you survive through that? You've got to have some money in the bank if you're doing Medicaid, because that happens. Now I know other guys that have got their billing systems down, or they pay somebody to do the billing for them. And if you're on top of it, then you get paid.
So if you're on top of it, you can get it sorted out.
Right.
And your paychecks.
But if you don't have your paperwork in order, you can delay it. And when they changed their computer system a couple years ago, it was a big problem. I saw him back there.
I just had a question about the administrator. What kind of credentials do they need?
So the administrator has to, this was a pretty big deal about 6 months ago, because they were changing the regulations. And in the change of regulations, they were going to require that the administrator be a nurse. And that would really shot that number up. We fought it pretty hard with our group, our Denver ALR group. We actually had an attorney in our group who did it pro bono. And we were able to, between our group and the other groups out there and all the noise that we raised, they reduced those regulations. So now the minimum requirement is a high school education and 1 year experience.
That's good.
That's a big change, right? But let me tell you this, here's where they were. Where they were before this recent change is you had to pass, or you didn't even have to pass, you had to attend a 30-hour course.
Oh, wow.
Now there was no test, and I spoke with one of the instructors and she was expressing her frustration because some of the people that attended a 30-hour course didn't even speak English. And they're putting these people in charge of these houses. So that was a big problem. That's why they kind of went too far the other way. We got them right in the middle. Now it's somewhat reasonable. There was one more question up on the front. Yes.
When you're looking at qualifying the house that you want to buy, you're looking at making it a 10-bed, is that assuming that it has to have 5 bedrooms?
Yes, the regulations are, if you want to put one person in, you need at least 100 square feet for 1 bedroom. And if you want 2 people in a room, it needs at least 120 square feet. And typically, if you're starting up one of these, the group homes allow up to 8 people. So getting that extra 2 is a few extra steps that you go through. The strategy that we see most of them do is they start the group home, they get it full, and then you have to go through typically some kind of variance, a zoning variance to add the extra 2. So by that time, they've been in there 6-8 months, and the neighbors, when they hear group home, they get all up in arms. They're all freaking out. Oh my God, we're going to have group home. It's going to be all these people, and they don't get it. But after 6 months, and they realize this is the most quiet house in the neighborhood, then you go knock on the doors and say, hey, I want to move a couple in. Do you mind? Are you okay with that? Oh yeah, sure. You guys have been great neighbors. So that's usually how we see them go from 8 to 10.
Okay, so then what is the minimum requirement for a 10-bed in bathroom facilities?
If you're 10 or under, you need to have 1 bathroom for every 6 residents. And you have to have 1 full bathroom in the house so that, showers and such. So, Ken, I know you had a question before I move on.
That was kind of like the same thing. How many cramming in a room? Like if you're going to go Medicaid or whatever, could you sleep like bunk beds and that?
Maximum in assisted living is. Wow.
I believe that out of your marketing brochure. We'll soften that up just a little bit.
Submarine style.
What if your business model is to make as much profit as you can, and a person runs out of money, and it goes into Medicaid, and you don't want that money?
So
What is the eviction process?
it's a 30-day notice, basically. And a lot of places are like that, where they don't have Medicaid. They don't want Medicaid. They don't want that lower. So, when they run out of money, hey,
Sorry.
Yeah,
The
we're
warm
giving
and
you 30
fuzzy
days. Kind of, you know, it's, yeah,
Business.
it is business. And, you know, we saw some of the numbers. And if you don't pay attention to those numbers and you're out of business, then you got 7 other people that are out of the house. So you have to, it's a balance. You know, and most of the operators I have met that are involved in the operations, they have hearts of gold. They really do. And some of them will reduce price, or they'll take the bite themselves and reduce their income. But it's dangerous. It is, right. It's a slippery slope. Yes?
So, as a realtor, let's say that I encounter property that I think has good potential. Do I go to the city for zoning, or how do I find businesses that might want to lease or list it so that we can put it together for my seller?
Okay, so the first place is zoning. You want to make sure that it can be done there. If you're looking for businesses like that, I would say, hey, come to our group, because we have some people that come in there. But you can go online on our website. We've got a link to, it's the facility, I can't think of it exactly, but somewhere on there is a link that will give you the name and address of every facility in Colorado. So you could start smiling it out.
For guys like me that would want nothing to do with the care side of this and just want to be real estate guys, are there a lot of people out there that want to run a business like this?
No, there's not. It's a tough business. You're dealing with somebody's mom. So you're dealing with the family as well. Our customer really is what we call daughter Judy. She's the real customer. You know, mom is kind of the product, but daughter Judy is the customer. So you got to keep daughter Judy happy. And that's not always easy because, you know, they're people. It's a people business. That said, there are some people out there, existing operators maybe, that want to expand. There's management companies out there, not a lot of them, but I know of a couple, that will run everything for you. So if you want to be a passive investor, the best thing to do is find something that's already up and running, buy it, and put a management company in place. Because trying to start that from scratch is really difficult. Most management companies don't want to be a part of that because they get paid off revenue. So they may charge a high consulting fee to help you get it to that point where they start making money. So as a passive investor, the best thing to do is just buy one existing, put management company in place, and watch the books. Any other questions?
So back to the bedrooms.
Okay.
Is there a minimum of size or?
Minimum size for the bedroom
Yes.
is 100 square feet for a single person.
And they can't be double.
They can be doubled up in at least 120 square feet. And you must have egress. Yeah. Yes.
So what's an average vacancy rate? Does the management company help you fill the property? Is that
Yes, that's part of what they do is they help you fill it up. They manage the employees, they manage the administrator, they deal with the state. They do everything involved in the operations as far as keeping it going.
What's the average vacancy rate? What's the turnaround there?
The average vacancy rate depends on if you're private pay or Medicaid. We're seeing probably, and the size of the facility too. Smaller facilities, I would say probably 10 to 13% on private pay. Very little, maybe 3% on Medicaid, because there's a line of Medicaid people wanting to get in. Larger facilities, or you know, if you have a 3-pack or better, then your vacancy rate is probably 8% on private pay. Because you know, in this business, people pass away. They either pass away or they get to the point where they need more help than you can give them. So they go to a nursing home or hospice or something along those lines. You got a question here?
Yeah, are most of the in-house assistants that are taking care of these residents, are they 24-hour, always there?
Well, there has to be somebody there 24 hours, but it follows typical labor law. So if you exceed 12 hours in a day, you're paying overtime.
Yeah.
40 hours a week, you're paying overtime.
So you have 2 different people.
Yeah, or
coordinating now.
Yeah, I think a 3/8 is a better model myself,
Okay.
but, you know, it's up to you as a business owner, what you do. Yes.
Can you mix the two between private stage and rental?
Yes, you can. You can mix the two. And there's another service out there. They only service certain zip